All right.
Okay.
There's
Yeah,
that.
I'd be glad
Oh,
to answer questions.
great. All right. Let's see. Let me see if I get. People don't need to see me. All right. Um, so, um, anybody have anything you want to ask, John, or question? Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if Sean can hear me.
I don't know. That's the big challenge.
Yeah, yeah.
Why don't they stand up?
Yeah. Uh,
Hang on. One moment, please. Sorry, I should do this. Okay.
I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the film. I wanted to know more about the process of how you guys came up with, I guess, just the conceit of using Kirby artwork and panels from the war in parallel with the voiceover of the letters. And I'd like to know more about the research process that went into that too, because I thought you did a really great job of finding moments in his comics that matched the letters themselves. And I just like to know more about how that idea came to you guys and also the research process of making that happen.
Um, Sorry, the sound is not so good on this side. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Come on
I'll bridge
over.
the question.
Even come
Yeah.
over closer. Yeah.
I just wanted to know more about the process of researching Kirby's comics in relation with the letters that he wrote to Roz. I thought the documentary did a really great job of showing how his art reflected his experiences, and I'd just like to know more how you went about researching his comics to find the panels and art that was parallel to the stories that he was sending home to Roz in his letters.
Okay, so the fact is, when I started working on my biography, I I sort of work a lot on this war period, and I started by collecting Jack's interview about this period, and try to make sense of it because, well, you don't know, but veterans do not have sometimes a good memory of what really happened. And then I tried to find some outside sources. I mean, I went back to the morning reports, and well, the fact was that Jack went to Moselle, and so I didn't know exactly where he went at that time, and I researched on the internet and could find an association working in well next to Dorno, and who supplied some very interesting documents for me, and that's the way I could sort of track down what Jack did at that time. Uh, so we could find, you know, well, actually, it was documented. He said that in his interviews when he landed in Omaha Beach, and what he did after. But from that point on, you know, when he was in France, in and started to go to Moselle, nothing was clear. So I had to rely on that French association who supplied me with some documents, and so we could go back there. We could go there and investigate on location, and we could find some drawings that Jack did during that time, notably a portrait of Mitch, his friend at that time, and some letters that were sent to other people mentioning Jack Kirby's name. So it was a great source, and well, actually, from what Jack said, you know, in his interview, well, there were a lot of errors. I mean, when you are in danger, you don't precisely remember exactly where you were, and so that's a really difficult thing for veterans to clearly remember what they did. Well, they knew that they were menaced, they were threatened, but they didn't know exactly where. And so we had to go back to the morning reports to be sure that where most of the the events actually happened, and it was during the Dorno beachhead, and so we concentrated on that, and this part has been documented by the association, and I could research and actually find some events that were also mentioned in Jack's interviews. You know, when he was crossing the Moselle River on a boat, and that was it. We had it, and it was really, really impressive. I can tell you that going on location, it was really, really a moving experience to understand that so many young American soldiers died there, you know, just crossing that damn river for absolutely nothing, because it was a very badly prepared operation. And Jack was very fortunate to come back. So that's to answer the first part of your question. The second part was going back in his work to see if there were some traces, some tracks in his work uh, uh, about all these events. And you have plenty. You have plenty. You know, you have this scene, you know, from Sergeant Fury when the ruling commando is on a boat. You have that these scenes from different stories, you know, a tank shows no mercy from a battle, an atlas book, you know, from the early 60s or late 50s. You have that issue of the losers with that soldier, that GI, who's being attacked by a panzer tank. And so all these things were supported that Jack really experienced that.
Thank you.
That is fantastic. Let's
Is
see
that
if I can.
answering your question?
Well, without a doubt. Yeah.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to ask John anything? That really was a really great, two great questions and a really great in-depth answer. Thank you so much. Um, uh, and that was just around, that was in 2017, right? For the 100th birthday when we were in San Diego, right? When that
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We were there at the proper time to
You
celebrate
were.
the birthday. Yeah.
And
Well,
can you
the
tell us a little bit
production
about
was.
your
Sorry.
I was going to ask you to just speak a little bit about your biography because it is such a monumental work.
Yeah, I wish you could read it in English. The fact is, I wrote two huge books, illustrated books, and that's a problem because nowadays there would be problems, you know, copyright problems, because it mixes copyrights, DC copyrights and Marvel copyrights, and it's just like not exactly a comic book, but an illustrated book, because each and every event is illustrated by whether a pic or a piece of art by Jack. And so I think it's the most comprehensive so far. So there are some errors, obviously, because at the time I didn't have everything at disposal. But concerning the war, it was the first time this period was researched, and with errors as well, because I sort of I relied on what Jack said, and Jack said a lot of errors when he came back from the war. So at one point, he even said that he went to Italy to fight Mussolini. So I think that, well, he was very courageous. He had a very heroic time during the war. He probably killed people, as is mentioned in the film. And so it left him with a PTSD. I think that's a proper word for it. And that's absolutely terrible, because nothing was done to help him with that. And so he had to work hard to have a better opinion of himself after the war. And I think it it can also help us to understand why he worked so much after the war.
As a just kind of a level of detail kind of item, could you just describe a little bit more about the morning reports that you mentioned?
Well, the morning reports are really elusive. They are not very detailed, but you will have one mentioning, when German soldiers surrendered to the GIs in Dorno. And so that's the only thing I could find about, just after the Dorno bridgehead, when Jack was stationed in a brick factory, and he had that these Germans who surrendered. And the only mention of it that I could find is in his interviews, was when he said that he had to fight, and they had to shoot Germans, and I'm not sure it happened like that. I think they just surrendered, and he had some prisoners to watch, but I think nobody died there, and I think that the dead people he could see, and all happened during the Dorno bridgehead, but not after. So that's one of the most difficult parts, to make sense with what the veterans are stating. Another example is when Jack said that when he landed at Omaha Beach, he said that there were still corpses on the beach. Well, that's absolutely impossible. 1 month and a half after the D-Day, so you had a harbor there, and you had thousands and thousands of people working there, and so you could find a dead body, floating and going up, but you won't find dead bodies on the beach just like that. So I think he made a mistake with what he could see and what he could experience on the Moselle banks. And so the morning reports are very elusive, but they sort of give a clear, clearly what really happened, and you have to believe that.
That's great. Yeah, they're like the reports from the actual units that they would make back to the command as part of the command structure, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Jack was a writer and he was a creator. And at one point in his mind, maybe he could. It was not inventing, but it was reorganizing the events he really experienced.
Right. Right. Anybody else? All right. Well, John, thank you so much. It's such a wonderful documentary, and it was so great for you to spend some time with us here over the internet there. And we love seeing you and talking with you. And you do such great work, and your research and your love of Kirby is very apparent. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rand. I would love to be with you tonight. And thanks for inviting me, because I'm just partly with you, but it's still very nice to be with you.
All right. Yes, I agree. And with you. All right. Thank you very much.
All right.
We're gonna
Bye-bye.
we'll move on and bye bye.